80% of people remember a shame experience from school that changed how they thought about themselves for the rest of their life. And I can think of my own shame experience that happened in grade 1, the first time I was sent to the principal's office. And I do think that wasn't wholly responsible for it, but I definitely became a lot more of a people pleaser and teacher's pet after I got sent to the principal's office for wasting a marker drawing a butterfly underneath a poem about butterflies.
That was the voice of this week's guest, Dr. Brendan Kwiatkowski-Hartman. Brendan is a sociologist that specializes in the social, emotional development, and well-being of boys and men. Brendan has a PhD in education from the University of Edinburgh and was formerly a high school teacher in Vancouver, Canada. More often in life, we find ourselves in a vicious cycle of burning out and then numbing out, only to burn out and numb out even more. Even the PhDs like Brendan find themselves in that cycle. But recently, he's been finding his way out of it. In today's episode, we discuss 1, how each of us have dealt with or not dealt with burnout as we navigate the field of education. 2, the challenge of trigger warnings and how they undermine the courageous and dangerous conversations required to do great teaching. And 3, how students and teachers alike fall prey to smartphone soothing and how it affects you and your classroom. Are you ready? Take out your notes and get ready for the show. As a male educator at your school site, it can get lonely. Only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And just think about what this gender gap means for your male students. They experience disproportionate levels of discipline. This is a show for male educators who want to feel more understood by their community and want to create emotionally safe classrooms and schools for the next generation of male students. Welcome to Unmasking with Male Educators. Brendan Kwiatkowski-Hartman, it is so glad to have you on the show today.
Thanks. It's so great to talk to you.
Would you tell folks about you? Like, what do you want them to know about you as we jump into this conversation? You and I are going to talk about our masks and we're going to talk about education. But what do you think folks should know about you before, just to kind of know who's showing up here in the room today?
Yeah, I am a sociologist that specializes in the social emotional development and well-being of boys and men and how that connects to the well-being of others. I was a high school teacher near Vancouver, Canada, and I still am a teacher. I teach some courses at university. I do workshops for youth, parents, teachers relating to gender dynamics and social emotional wellness. That's like the academic side of me, but I always feel so much pressure when it's like, what do I want people to know about me? It's like, I think I want people to know that like I care deeply about the pain that people are in and I want to reduce suffering.
That's beautiful. Is there something about like your journey that gives you a heart for that? Do you know that where that came from, where the heart for, because there's not a lot of people who would say that that's what their goal is. I've talked to hundreds of people, not only on the show, but is there something from your journey that makes you very caring about those things, those people?
I can answer that with much more wisdom now, having done extensive reflection on my life. And like, so my most deep core answer would be, I know what it's like to hate myself and to be in a lot of pain in what I would call ordinary ways. Like my pain, my self-hatred wasn't, I don't think was exceptional from, depends how we want to measure it. But it was just very normalized. And I think I got into this work for, I want to say like, these are not the right words, but I got into this work, I think, in teaching. One, I love learning. I love growth. But it was easier for me to care about other people and help them in their growth than it was to look in the mirror and care about my own. And so I think that as I've developed and matured, I think that the work that I do with others is really congruous and in alignment with the work that I'm doing with myself.
Beautiful. I resonate with that a lot. So thank you. I look forward to learning more as we jump into these masks. I resonate with the idea of caring so much, oftentimes more for others than I do for myself. I know what it's like to not like myself a lot. Even you use the word hate, and I would probably say by attitude and energy, I would probably say also. My mom raised me with like, you can't use the word hate. So even if I was saying towards myself, it feels awkward. As though it was somebody I really dislike, I have a hard time saying I hate because I have this early training of like, don't use that word, right? So, but yes, I feel it. I feel it in all the ways. We're gonna jump into these masks. You made a mask?
Yes, I did.
And do you get to choose as a guest who goes first? So I'll just have you share the front and then the back, or you have me go first. And I've been trying to like push myself to like just really be in the moment and not try, because I've made so many of them that I could like regurgitate words.
Yes.
But you tell me who you want to go first.
Sure, I'll go first.
Yeah. Okay. So you do the front and then do the back. Don't if they're next side by side, don't show the back until you're ready to share it. So just maybe show the front and then show the back, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, because I've done one of these masks before in a workshop with you, and this one is interesting because it was like specifically my mask as an educator, and it made me think that like I had this other layer of thought process going on as I was doing this one. I was like, oh, I wonder what my students would say of me. Because it's like, this is how I feel, but I wonder if they would say like the opposite, or I wonder how hidden some of my feelings are. Or I also feel like it's unique in that I think I wear different masks for when I teach high school versus when I teach university. And so anyways, I'll just jump into it. So this is the side that I see, which is just like the most basic, stereotypical white guy face, like just a very plain, smiling, happy guy. But I present myself as an educator. I think the word that stuck out was jovial, passionate, and caring. But I have a caveat around caring, because caring, and spoiler alert, is that caring is also on my other side, but there's like a certain type of caring that I show, which is a bit more into the people pleasing type of care that I show for my students. I think my students genuinely feel like I care about them. That is feedback that I get. I think that it's interesting teaching university, at least at my school, is that they actually give you feedback and you know exactly what the reviews are. So there's less projection of what do my students think of me. But generally speaking, the biggest critique I get, actually the only critique I've gotten from university is like, he goes on rabbit trails sometimes, but I don't know whether I'd want them to be less because they're quite interesting, but maybe he could stay on topic a bit more. So I feel like I'm just passionate about a lot of things. My mind goes in a lot of different areas. But generally speaking, it was interesting doing this mask. It's like, generally speaking, I feel like a lot of this mask is professional, and like is appropriate. I don't want to bring my students down, or like in teacher training, we don't want our stress to really impact our students' experiences. They're coming in enough that we want to be sturdy for them.
Yeah. So why don't, just for the sake of like just continuity, just go ahead and share the back, and then I'll share the front and back. Yeah.
Great. So then on the back, I have insecure, stressed, burnt out, and this is the other side of caring, which is frustration. Is that like I care so much about like the life choices that my students are making. I care a lot about like, not if they're doing their homework or not, but I do care about like the choices that they're making, and if they're skipping class. Like I care not because I'm personally hurt by it, but because or like maybe there's an element of that. Like I feel like I've done a lot of work for this space, for creating lesson plans, and I can't even meet them if they're not there. And so like I care about the just choices they make. And I also want them to know like the students that have graduated, like I still think and care about these students far more than I think any of them would think. I hold them dearly to me. And I don't think I showed that level of care.
Yeah. After I share mine, I want to come back to the idea when you talked about like how I show up maybe for high school and how I show up for college. Because I would love to just hear more about what are the differences as a person who has taught both and what you see as the differences, So I'll go. I think when I think of myself as a teacher now, because I'm not in the classroom directly, I do a lot of push-ins to like assemblies and workshops and things like that. I think these are the ones that I've been really thinking about lately. So that's my mask. I think the eyes are closed. I'm working on a new character, so that's gonna be the character. But
oh, nice.
I wrote dedicated, go-getter, nonstop. And I think for those, it's like when I was a teacher in the classroom, when I go to a workshop, I'm here, right? Like I'm go get it. Like I'm here. I'm prepared. I'm really pushing my team. If I'm there on a solo mission or if I have a team with me, I'm really pushing the like, hey, we got to make sure this table looks nice. We got to it's like I'm really like committed to like having the folks who show up, who give us their time or who maybe they didn't have a choice, but they were brought there in an assembly that is worth their time. Right.
Yeah.
And I know that so I push myself to like really finding the ones who are the most disconnected and trying to be like, I'm talking to you, right? Like I'm talking and that can be a dangerous side, right? But it is like, I'm dedicated. I'm committed to you. I'm going to do my best. And whatever it takes, whatever it takes. That's the nonstop in me in this work,
Yeah.
And then when you wrote caring, because I've been written caring a lot and I didn't write it for a long time. And then when I first wrote it, I'm like, oh yeah, why have I never written caring on the front? I am like, I'm committed. I'm passionate about this work. Right. But then this last season, I've been just in this right now moment, I've been just like, go, 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 go. Right. Like everything's like, so many things are happening at the same time. Feeling a lot of that go energy, and nonstop. Maybe I'll just show the back right now because it's right there. So the back is worry, tired, and want more. And I think the worry is connected to, lots of things. I've been dealing with some chronic pain. And I think I have been like, I do a good job of just kind of like putting on this mask, got good mask, right? And I watched a video at one school recently and I saw how I was standing. I was like, I had the mic, but I'm kind of hunched and I know what's happening. I know I'm talking to the kids in the audience. So I'm not wincing. They can't see it, but I can see how I'm standing knowing that I was like, I was in pain. Like my back was hurting and I was like, dog, man. I was like rushing, we're trying to get there. And I think in my mind, like watching it, I'm watching myself watch me like, oh, I'm leaning, right? I'm leaning. Or one talk I saw, I was sitting in a chair because it was a circle. Everyone was sitting. So, but normally it was more of a circle than me and doing an assembly. So I was sitting with them. But I also saw how I was sitting, right? Like on the armrest, like trying to like alleviate. And I was like, oh, I'm it's showing up. I don't know if other people see it. And so I think about that, like tired. Like when does a leader get to be tired, right?
Yeah.
When does I think about that. I think about them want more. I've always had big goals for myself, right? So the back is like, okay. So is this it? Yeah, I believe when it's my turn to go, it's when my turn to go. Like I believe in a higher power. I don't get to control any of this. I'm gonna just give every day the best I can. When I leave here, I've given it all to try and make the world a better place. And so I think that, but deep down, like in terms of, yeah, I need some rest. I need a vacation, right? So those are things that are coming up really present right now. So I'll stop there.
Yeah.
That's what's really present right now in this. as an educator who's trying to like, who may not make it about me, not make it about like when I'm on stage when I'm teaching, it's about you, it's about them, it's about serving them and giving to them. And
Yeah.
I think I err on that side. I used to, even when I may not have to, you know?
Yeah, like err on the side of self-martyrdom.
Yeah.
Which like so many amazing educators, I feel like are on that cusp of burnout, of like, thanks for sharing that. And like, I just hear just I don't know, it seems like a deep tiredness or a deep need for care and restoration.
Yeah, for real. Big time. Well, you said the word burnout too, so it actually helped me to like, oh yeah, I'm feeling some of that. I think you said burnout on the back.
Yeah.
So like, oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
I don't really know what it's like to be a professional not in a state of burnout, is what I've realized, and what I am trying so hard to unlearn. I think I had a wake-up call during my PhD where I realized that if I continue on the same pattern that I'm at, that I'm actually never going to arrive at a place that feels great, or a place that I just feel like, oh, I can breathe, until I'm dead. And like it was that extreme in my head. And that is also one of the decisions why I like humans, that we fall into the same patterns and the same stuckness, but I feel like it's a spiral. Like I feel like I'm becoming more aware and less likely to fall in the patterns of like urgency and burnout and working late nights. Although I did talk to you about how like I almost did an all-nighter last night for a deadline that I had. So I still have these patterns coming up. I'm catching them earlier, but I actually have a really hard time now that I'm not a high school teacher full time, or I'm not really a high school teacher at all, is this weird level of guilt that I worked so many hours for like, well, better than American pay in public systems. Like Canada's system is livable, at least, although Vancouver is getting unlivable in other areas. But generally speaking, it's like I feel like this level of guilt, or like feeling like I can only deserve rest if I have a painful journey to get there. Like only if I push myself to the brink do I deserve to have like a week rest on spring break or somewhere else that doesn't even get close to addressing the deep need for rest that I need.
Powerful. And I experienced that too. I experienced that when I left a public school. The first school I taught at, San Lorenzo, went to this city called Marin County, which is top per capita, like number 7 in the world, right? Wealthiest per capita, right? And I go from like working, what you're talking about, that high school work burnout, like you always, so like always something to do. That you almost have to like put it down, right? Because it's not, almost never finishes, right? And I go there, and I'm not a teacher. I'm a math specialist. So my work is to just do enrichment math for students in 4th through 8th grade. And that's just like fun activities, math games, math deeper in understanding of math. Like it was almost felt like I was cheating. It was like, wait, I'm getting paid more than I just got paid. I leave work energized. I feel like I'm already prepared for tomorrow, even the next day, right? Like I'm like, what is going on? And I think the feeling of guilt, the feeling of that it showed up so much more when I went back to my old high school to go, talk to the young people from Ever Forward. I would almost have to like because I would walk in, I just left the other job, and now I'm coming here and I'm fired up. Not only am I fired up to see them again, but I got energy.
Yeah.
And I saw the teachers walking around, and I realized, I felt the responsibility. No one made me feel this, but I did. Like, I can't walk in here bouncing around like Tigger. Like, I got all this energy. Like, how dare you? How dare you do that to these teachers, right? Like, so I just was like, how you doing? Oh, you hanging in there? Yeah, me too. Right? I felt like I had to put on a mask of like, not that I felt the need to do that. I felt the need. I mean, I think about it now looking back,
Right.
and I've reflected on that a lot of times. Like it felt like I think they may have been happy that I was well rested and energized. You know, not that they would have been hating, but I just didn't feel right to do it. I just felt like that. I know what it was like. I was just there a couple of months ago, so to come in and be like, "Hey, we had donuts this morning at my school for birthdays in the month of November," right? And everybody's like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing, because you know how you get treated. You know how you got treated. You know how they are getting treated. And when you go to a new place, it's sometimes hard.
Yeah, there's two things I want to say on that. Like, first of all, I can resonate with a lot of that, especially like, dude, how messed up is it that balance feels like something we should feel guilty about? Like, the actually a sustainable lifestyle, or where our joy and we can find rejuvenation, that feels something worth feeling guilt about. Like, that's so messed up. And I so feel that too. It's easier when I see you describe it than like, oh, I think my wife has said the exact same things about me. And I like, no, this makes sense though to me. But then the other thing that you just mentioned is like when I do my workshops too, and I don't do the same exercise you do, but we talk about like emotional suppression. And it still surprises me and almost gets me more upset, because it's more surprising when students describe like how much joy they've had to suppress. And I feel like there's a special sadness in my heart. Like, for sure, when we have to suppress our anger and our sadness and our fear, that is like the focus of a lot of my research. But there's a extra level of sadness when we suppress our excitement, our joy, and like what gives us life. And I don't think people think about those masks as much.
Yeah, like where do you learn that you can't be proud of yourself out loud, right?
Yeah, need to keep yourself small.
Yeah,
the other people aren't threatened.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, I learned it from my community for sure. I learned it from where I grew up in Oakland. Like who you think you are? You think you're better than somebody else?
Yeah.
You think you think you're better than us? Especially when I left to college and came back, and then you're just like trying to like not pretend like I just had a great time away. Like I just trying like I'm not trying to, right? I'm just like, it's like being proud of yourself, right? Being proud of yourself. And where do you get to brag on yourself? Is that seen as a good thing, or is it seen as ego? And I think I always go to bragging on myself is I'm egotistical or I'm arrogant, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to when I see people who are proud of themselves, I'm like, man, I wonder what that would be like, just to be like totally just openly proud of yourself like that, like so big, right?
Yeah, to not have to swell up, to be bigger than you are, but not have to shrink, to just like be confident and sturdy. Like, yeah, this is me, and just own it. I'm going to say I'm getting there. I feel like I'm so quick to be like, oh, I'm not even close to there yet. But like, I'm getting there. I'll give myself some positive affirmation.
Nice. As an educator, like one question I wonder, and maybe this will be where we can just kind of move in, and anything you think of, you can bring up as well. Just one of the questions I have for you is, since you've taught high school and college, what do you see as outside of the age and maturity levels, and we know that still some 19, 20-year-olds are still figuring it out too, right? But what have you seen some of the big differences as you as a teacher being able to relate to them, connect to them, how you see them show up? And then we know that, the world has changed over the last, it always changes, but let's say over the last 5, 7, 6 years, been a lot of change socially, emotionally, and just, academically. So what are some things that stand out to you now in your differences, some of the differences from high school to college?
I think as someone who always cares about doing the U-turn, focusing on what comes up for me, is like the most interesting thing is just noticing what triggers me, or what hits me differently when I go into a university class versus when I go into a high school class. And I feel like probably with the university class, I have a bit more of an intellectual mask. Like, I want them to know that I'm smart enough. I want to I feel like there's a bit more posturing from my side of like, let me dazzle you with what I know, and then get to the heart piece. Because I always want to integrate, like, I always view my structure, my philosophy of education is very much like head knowledge intertwined with heart knowledge, intertwined with like hand knowledge of like thinking, feeling, and doing. And so I feel like university, I'm more likely to start more with the head knowledge. I feel like my insecurity, but like I want them to know that I'm really an expert in this topic area. And that speaks to my own insecurity. I do think that I've appreciated, depending on the class, and I think one of the skills of a teacher is knowing your audience and forming relationships, is that like I laugh because the back in my mask, I said the stressed, burnt out. But when I was teaching, the last university courses I taught were all to future teachers. And I had a very unsustainable schedule. Like I had 2 months where I was lecturing for 9 hours a day. So 3-hour classes. And the students knew that like, this is the first time I was teaching those classes. I was doing like 80 to 90 hour weeks for those 2 months. And so I know that they knew I was burnt out. And so like, I did not hide that from them very well. But like they were concerned for me, which is not the dynamic you really want. But I think at that stage, they were adults at least. So it wasn't like teenagers feeling like they had to take care of me. So yeah, that's one level that like, I think they can see my stress more when I teach university. But actually, that was just for that specific time period. And then the other thing that I will say is based on the courses I teach, like I taught the only gender and education course in Canada for pre-service teachers, and that was at a Christian university. And so there was a lot of dynamics of what line I had to toe and wanting every student to feel safe. Like, okay, here's the thing, is that like my philosophy of education can be summed up in two words, is that I believe that education at its core should be interruptive and invitational. So it interrupts us from our status quo, like even like a math lesson. Like I want someone to be interrupted by the beauty of numbers and like the beauty of problem solving. And like that sets them on a different life trajectory, perhaps. And then invitational is like, okay, the interruption, the trigger is an invitation to go deeper. And so my biggest struggle is that I am such a big proponent of what I call dangerous conversations, like conversations that aren't sanitized and are a bit dangerous, but you want to also protect and care about the safety of everyone in those classrooms. And you're not going to be able to do that. So going into it knowing that nothing is going to help or be received amicably by everyone, that's the challenge. And that's probably where I've become least confident, because I don't know which line I want to toe the most, or which one will, there's more backlash in university from students that I've avoided a lot of it, but I know like my colleagues have been like ripped to shreds because they didn't have the proper trigger warning. And like, so being super upset. And it's like, one, it wasn't intentional. And two, the research on trigger warnings doesn't actually prove that trigger warnings help to reduce anxiety. In fact, they often increase anxiety. And it actually makes people less likely to seek resources that would help them if they were to be triggered. But the problem is that people feel like trigger warnings help. And so I'm not trying to intentionally trigger people or anything like that. But we live in a world where we're going to get activated. Our nervous systems are going to respond to information. And I want my students' nervous systems to respond to information, because I think, like, why wouldn't, like, that's part of growth, is part of that discomfort. And so that is, I like how university, I can push that a bit more.
Yeah.
But they also push back a bit. Well, teenagers push back a lot more too. It's hard to actually fully say which one's more.
I mean, when you said that part, it's actually really powerful. I think, we've had that come up in a lot of our work. We've had that come up. One of our videos that shows a series of masks does that. You know, it has a series of a bunch of masks. There's one mask where a young person wrote suicide on the back of the mask, and most audiences don't have any kind of, you know, tense reflection about it. You know, they see it. You hear some people may gasp, but we move on. I don't point a lot of light to it. It's a word on a mask that a person wrote, not knowing. And sometimes people bring it up. I saw that word. Oh yeah, I saw that. And I remember one. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I got to get some reflection. But someone was like, "You should have warned us that word was going to be there." And I'm like, "Oh, say more. Say more." I'm trying to take it in. It's feedback, always feedback, and say more. Well, like you should have told us that word was going to be in there. And I was like, I said, it. Because when we show the video, we used to show the video sometimes before people read the cards and sometimes after. I've done it both ways. I think we do it more before now, because I want them to see. Oh, no, I want them to, in their minds, in my mind, you're trying to bring them on an arc of an experience, right? Oh, those are those people. That's not me. But I think I want them to see that, whatever words come up on these cards that we were about to read in front of the room, who knows what words they have to choose out of 6 words to read. They can only choose 2. So who knows what word they left, what word was actually going on, what things they didn't actually share because it was too uncomfortable to share. And I've had it happen. I've had it happen where someone shared a card that had a really tough word on it. Right. And you're just like, that person felt comfortable to bring that word to the front. Right. And I think it's just, is that part of like, well, I don't know what somebody's going through. If I come to you and tell you I'm going through something, do I have to tell you, hey, can I prepare you that I got something tough to tell you, but I need to talk? Like if I'm always having to do that, and I think, as a facilitator, I'm always taking the feedback really to heart, to at least make sure that I'm not doing damage, right? Do no harm, right? Is a goal, right? But also like the world we live in this is the world we live in. Like we're gonna experience things that are gonna shock us and that are gonna. So I really like the way you said it. I've actually have not been able to say it that way before. That is the world we live in, and stuff is going to come up. Problems are not going to warn you that they're coming up in your life.
Yeah,
heartbreak is not going to. You're not going to be like, hey, I'm about to break your heart in like 2 weeks. So just know that you're about to this relationship. It's like it happens. I'm not by surprise. You even find out from a friend, or you find out from a text message. And I think we try and so I'm just trying to find the right words to say it so you can say it so it comes from a place of love and kindness as opposed to like just take it. But like this is not reality. If everything you're expecting that's gonna hit you in an emotional place, I have to prepare you for it, right? Because I don't know what story I could possibly tell you. If I tell you about my domestic violence in my home growing up, that could hit a trigger. Do I have to prepare you that everything you're gonna say here in this workshop may bring something up? I don't know what will bring it up for you because I don't know your story. So it's like, how do I prepare for all of that, right?
Yeah. I remember early on in my teaching career, my wife is a trauma therapist, and she gave me permission of like, oh, you can't, like, I always start every course, every grade level I ever do, I always start my first lesson talking about trauma and shame and how my intention, like shame, school, so many people have experienced a shame event in school. Dr. Brene Brown's research hones in on this. Like 80% of people remember a shame experience from school that changed how they thought about themselves for the rest of their life. And I can think of my own shame experience that happened in grade 1, the first time I was sent to the principal's office. And I do think that wasn't wholly responsible for it, but I definitely became a lot more of a people pleaser and teacher's pet after I got sent to the principal's office for wasting a marker drawing a butterfly underneath a poem about butterflies. And so all that to say is that I thought like, okay, I can prevent my students from feeling shame or from feeling trauma in the class. And I think in a bit of a self-reflective way is that I taught elementary as well, not nearly as much, but like there's a part of me that likes working with people who've had a terrible experience with school. And I feel like in high school, like I like being a part of that repair. Whereas I feel like there's a lot more pressure in elementary school to be like, I don't want to be responsible for their disrepair or their rupture with an educator. However, all that to say is that my wife gave me permission that like I'm going to traumatize people. And I had this experience early on where like I had twins in my classroom, and I'll do de-identifying information about them, but twins in this classroom, which I feel like gives it such a better case study in that one day I had so much marking to hand back, And I ended up just like tossing them to students, and it was very lighthearted of like, all right, calling your names and like just tossing it. But then I had one of these male students, like not show up to class for like a month, and like maybe like I didn't even think much of it. And then like a month and a half later, he's like, "Can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "When you were throwing those papers out, like I know it was just a joke, but like it just reminded me of when my dad used to abuse and throw things at me, and like I even know that my twin wasn't impacted this way, but I was," which is such good emotional reflection and intelligence to recognize these things. So this person wasn't coming in accusing, but it was like realizing that like, oh, things that I'm doing jovially or like so lighthearted, like I don't know everyone's trauma history or all these other things. So like it's so much more important to know how to repair. And yeah, you don't want to intentionally traumatize or trigger people, but I do think some of the polarization that is occurring today in your country and my country around gender, around masculinity is heightened by the unwillingness to sit with a bit of discomfort.
And imagine like the world we live in now is even more training young people about that, right? It's training them, which I don't know where the sensitivity of it kind of erupted, but you imagine if I have a device that I can, when I see something I don't like, I just swipe past it. My device recognizes, okay, this person doesn't watch stuff that has this in it. Don't show more of that. When I like it, I can click something that tells the people I like it. When I save it, I click it, I share it, I post on my story, whatever it may be, whatever the program you're using. And then when I hit humans who do say things I don't want to hear, I can't just swipe past them. Not physically, unless we see a lot of physical swipe passing people happening in our world today. But you imagine, like, now I'm like, oh wait, you're doing something to me right now. You're making me feel something I don't want to feel because I haven't even been trained to be able to handle it when I'm hearing something I don't really want to hear. I'm used to being able to just with my thumb move it to the left, to the right, get rid of it. Right? Don't show me more of this. And I'm mad, and I believe I've seen, I felt when I'm working with young people, this impatience with things that are there's almost no room for dissonance.
Yeah,
they almost like, I only want to have stuff around me that I want to have around me, and that, I think in some ways that makes sense. You should have more things around you that you want to have around you, and not things you don't. But when it becomes I communicate with somebody who is communicating something I don't want to hear, then it becomes, I believe, it's a level of danger, right? Dangerous, where I'm trying to make you stop. I'm trying to eliminate your opinion. I'm trying to eliminate your belief system. I'm trying to, because I don't want it. I don't want to have it around me. And I think that laziness of mind and laziness of thought and laziness of ability just to be there is going to, we definitely haven't seen the end of it, right? We're seeing it, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the avoidance of challenge, the avoidance of resistance. Like when we talk about cell phones, I think one of the most, not to be fear-mongering, but for me, is that these become what I call quasi-emotional regulators. Like we feel a challenge in life, and then we get on these, and we like, it's a soothing, it's our soothers that doesn't actually, like, it might bring us down from a hyper-aroused state, and it might be necessary temporarily. But then, generally speaking, there's not a lot of processing of feelings that's going on afterwards. And so, like, going on our phones allows us to kind of like numb, zone out, and not face what actually was there that's worth facing. And I see that problem. I showed my educational psychology class last year. I think while I was teaching it, I came across like the first recorded video recording of a toddler crying, and instead of like sucking their thumb or like hugging a stuffy, they were pretend swiping on an iPad as their soothing, as their coping mechanism. And it's such a powerful example of like the ways in which we are all so tied to these devices, which are so, and I'm not like against the devices, but I also think we are losing, we have one of the biggest pain numbers in our pockets all the time. And that adds to this conversation.
Well, I think this is a part that we're gonna have to like continue in another conversation, because I think that is something we keep seeing, and so over and over again. So I want to, for the sake of time, like I think what I would love to do with you is, as you're in this next season, I would love to like have you back on the show. I'd like to have you back, and let's go in deeper on a topic, right? Because I think what you just brought up at the end right there is actually one topic I want to dig in that rabbit hole, right? I want to jump in that rabbit hole right there with you, because I saw it at a birthday party the other day, and I was like, oh my God, this kid's having a meltdown, right? Like he went from having the phone to not, they took it. And then he was like, within 10 seconds, 15 of them taking it, I'm so bored. That's what he said, literally out loud. Like the mom took it, enjoy the party. Like he was like, he wanted to cry, and he cried. He was like, and he was like, I'm so bored. It was literally 15 seconds. If I could have recorded it without them knowing I was recording, because I knew something was going to happen. I knew a meltdown was about to happen. But anyway, that moment of like, he's like 7, maybe 6 or 7. So imagine right now, if you can't be around humans and find a way to connect. I mean, it's like 50 people here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, kids, a lot of kids your age too, right? And all these things. Anyway, so that's whole nother conversation. But I do.
Oh, I'd love to talk about that.
Oh man. Yeah,
like I don't know. Like the report in America, like 48% of men say that their online lives are more fulfilling than their offline lives. Is something more that we can dive into. Absolutely.
Let's do that.
And so many of us as adults are also like, we can look at kids and be like, we have this codependence with our devices as well.
Oh, I've looked up at an hour later and realized there's no way I just was on. There's no way the clock is. There's no way that's right time. There's no way this is the right time right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I was sitting here for an hour and I've done nothing, right? I mean, in your mind, you're just like mind numbing yourself out of the not doing the thing in front of you, maybe procrastinating, maybe whatever. But oh yeah, I've seen it, and I've had to hold myself to that account. Like, oh, look at you.
Well, let's bring this full circle to, we talked early on about burnout. Is that like when we're burnt out, it's like, for me, I've identified that the numbing out is like, I have so little control over my life because I'm always so busy. So I'm going to just numb out here because it's a bit of dopamine that I can get right now.
Yeah. Some laughs, some tears, some whatever, some like shock, right? Like, yeah, a lot of that. I agree. And I didn't have one. I didn't grow up on a phone, right? So obviously, imagine for people who didn't grow up on a phone, who now have this thing grabbing their time and attention, and kids who are growing up on it, how much the separation from them is going to probably even be even harder, because they're designed to keep them on it, you know? Okay. All right. Well, there's more. Look, I wish we had carved out more hours in this one session. I should have known, but I appreciate you for being here. And look, as an educator, as a male educator, our hope is to help more male educators either come to the profession, stay in the profession, but also know that we're needed. We're needed. The profession may not act like it because there's only so few of us, but I think there's such a need for the students, for youth, to see all types, men and women, and all those who identify outside of those binaries, to be in front of them as humans. We have some work to do to make it more appealing. Definitely in the United States where I'm at, they don't pay well. So you imagine if you like, why would I do that? Why would I do that to myself? Why would I sacrifice, right, respect and well-being financially to do something to help somebody else if I can barely help myself, you know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Is there any last thing you want to say to folks? I want to also make sure you share, like, how, if people want to find you. I know you do some amazing work in the social media world, like really sharing powerful stories, anecdotes, and research with folks. So how can people find you, or anything you want to say to educators out there or anyone out there as we give it a close down?
Yeah, I have some free resources, and you can find all my social media on my website, remasculine.com. That would be the best place to connect. I have 2 major endeavors that are happening later this year, but I haven't announced them yet. But if you do feel like signing up to my newsletter, that apparently matters to people that I need it to matter to. So that would help me out.
What he's saying is sign up for his newsletter. That's a Ashanti branch translation for the podcast. Sign up for Brendan's newsletter. We'll put the link in the bio in the show notes so you can find it there. And if you want to find him on social media, say the channel again.
Remasculine.com.
There it is. Brendan, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for being in this conversation. There's more to go, more to come. And I really wish we had more time, but thank you for being here. Folks, Brendan and I, we share our masks here publicly. You don't have to share yours publicly. You can share yours anonymously at millionmask.org. Thank you for being on the journey with us as we approach 100,000 people through the masks, on our way to 1 million. But thank you for being here with us today. We'll see you
Ashanti.
soon.
Love talking to you as always.
You too, brother. Peace to you.